for a lesson. You may have heard these words before, but I'll teach you what they really mean. Go beyond! Plus!
I've decided to take on the monstrous, challenging task of covering the entire IDW Transformers series. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I'm going to try to do my very best. I looked on YouTube to see if anyone else has done this, and I found one channel that seems like they started but never finished. If I'm wrong about that, or if I'm right, please let me know in the comments down below. I would greatly appreciate it. So the start of this series is going to begin with this video covering the origin of the mighty Megatron. The opening of this issue starts in the Cybertron system on this mining outpost. We're following this Autobot senator named Decimus, who's come to announce to the miners the automation of this Energon mining outpost, which basically means that they'll lose their jobs to machines and even lose their home. As we see through this conversation Decimus is having, he despises not only the miners but the Energon mines as well. He says he has no taste for the mines, but recognizes his home Iacon, who he is a senator, a part of the Senate there, needs them, but also says they don't need the degenerate scum who mines them. So we see he cares very little about these miners, or even how they'll react to the news, stating that like this is why we have security. We see Decimus at assembly with the miners telling them the news that this will be their last cycle working on this outpost, and that the Senate thanks them for their service and will help them find new homes and assignment. The miners aren't happy about this whatsoever. One of them even calls out Decimus here, saying this is just the Senate, you know, replacing them with machines, that the Senate is being greedy, and that all the Senate does is just take and take until they're told to stop, until they're made to stop. And after he says this, one of the guards of the security detail just walks up and straight kills this guy with no mercy, then flashes his Autobot insignia when the miners get, you know, pissed about this, telling them to stay back. Decimus tries to calm down the miners after this incident, but Megatron is pissed and not having it. He throws his mining axe right at Decimus and it lands right in his shoulder. Then Megatron takes on the security guard who killed the miner, takes him down to the ground and disarms him. The Autobot then wraps his hands around Megatron's head trying to crush it, but Megatron gives this murderer what he deserves. He screams no and smashes this guy's head or chest in. We don't really see, but either way this guy's dead. The miners like are fighting back against the security detail. And what we see next is very interesting here. Megatron realizing he killed this Autobot, and it seems like he's regretting it, like he can't believe what he just did, as if his anger and rage, you know, over the death of the miner took over and it just blinded him from all his action. The Autobot guards subdue the riot by raining nothing but blaster fire on them, but Megatron survives. They arrest all the revolt survivors, and then they're taken to a prison shuttle called Longshot, where the miners are en route to be transported to this prison facility known as the Rig. These two miners here, Rumble and Frenzy, ask for Megatron's help in taking out the guards, saying to him that they saw what he's capable of, but Megatron replies that it was unintentional. He didn't mean to kill the Autobot guard. They then bust out of their restraints, fire on the guards, and start fighting against them with their mining equipment, and they eventually take over the vessel. Megatron ends up helping. We go to the shuttle carrying Senator Decimus, who's being repaired from his wounds. He's told that the prison shuttle has deviated from its flight plan and is coming about. Then the most savage moment in this story so far happens. Megatron calls over the comms and says, "The Senate thanks each of you for your contribution," and then burns the shuttle of the senator. Like, this was sick. However, Megatron doesn't kill the senator though. His reasoning as to why is pretty smart. When he's asked, he says that the Senate's first priority would be to search and rescue their precious senator, but if he had destroyed the senator, then their first priority would have been to hunt them down instead. So Megatron and the revolt survivors take the shuttle to Kaon and decide that they need to disappear. We then go to the security services on Kaon, and we see Prowl making Sentinel Prime aware of the attack on the senator. I have to say, Sentinel Prime looks super badass. Like, he looks like a badass Gundam. Like, look at this guy. It seems like he's practicing his shot or testing out a new weapon, but either way, he tells Prowl to deal with this, that he doesn't want to deal with another whining senator. Prowl replies that he'll have a report and make sure the Senate is kept up to date, and Prime says that he wants the Senate out of his way and that whatever it is that's happened, it's nothing compared to down here. And that's where chapter 1 of this story ends, my friends. Let's dive right into chapter 2. So chapter 2 opens up with Megatron having made a new life for himself as a gladiator, competing in these illegal fight pits that take place in the Forge deep in Kaon. We see Megatron battling this bot who's pretty tough, who shrugs off this attempt to impale him. This other bot has the upper hand until Megatron uses his vehicle mode as a weapon, using his weight and mass to crush his opponent and run him over. As the other gladiator lies helpless on the floor, Megatron seems ready to end the fight until Clinch, the head of these games, orders Megatron to finish him. Megatron grabs the other gladiator's spear, but we see Megatron haunted by his memory of killing the security guard back at the mining post. He continues to think about that till he hears the crowd, hears them cheer till all are one. Repeatedly till all are one. He then finally stabs the bot. He removes his helm, basking in the crowd's cheers as he looks down on his defeated opponent. He then puts his helm back on, filled with glorious purpose. Meanwhile, we meet Senator Ratbat, who is approached by his assistant with forms to fill out, but Ratbat quickly dismisses the concerns of his assistant, telling him he has more important matters to attend to. I have to say, Senator Ratbat looks so different compared to his shattered glass version. It's kind of funny. We then see how corrupt Ratbat is, someone who's a member of the Senate, seeing how he uses his wealth, connections, and influence to easily manipulate events for his personal gain. He takes advantage of labor disputes, issuing statements for the public, and setting up companies to fall. However, during this session, Ratbat is intrigued by a report on the illegal gladiator games sweeping Cybertron. As the days pass, Megatron swiftly rises through the ranks, winning battle after battle, showing how mighty he truly is. Megatron eventually finds himself fighting alongside Clinch, the head of the games. In this match, Clinch's team is up against the wall. Clinch is unsure of what to do. However, out of nowhere, one of his own men stabs him in the chest. Megatron then kicks the bot who speared Clinch and finishes the job, making himself the new leader of the team. One thing that's interesting here, it doesn't really tell you, but I wonder if Megatron just saw this and took advantage, or he planned this from the beginning. We then go to Kaon's Security Services headquarters. Prowl is showing footage of the illegal battles to the response team. So we really see here Cybertron's law enforcement hasn't been able to find the arenas where these illegal games are taking place. I think also they're worried about Megatron's team increasing in power, since most of the volumes of footage they've been able to acquire features his team. The response team is eager to put a stop to this all. Then Sentinel Prime arrives on deck and immediately takes charge. He announces his plan to nail the gladiators in a wide-ranging police operation. We see they're going all out to take out these illegal games, and that this plan requires the assistance of every Autobot officer in Kaon. Sentinel Prime wants Megatron to hang. 18 cycles later, security officers Bump and Fastback are staking out a location. They're complaining how bored they are with and get told to maintain radio silence. All of a sudden, Constructicons arrive. Bumper and Fastback realize the gladiators aren't shipping parts to set up their mobile arenas, they're building them on site, using parts obtained from other bots who get thrown into this smelting pot. Their metal melted down to become the rivets and plates required to build the arena. Damn, this is messed up. Megatron arrives, wondering if construction is behind or was his information wrong. As he's wondering this, a voice calls out to him that shows him new weaponry he can use in order to modify himself and his men. Megatron tells the voice to reveal itself, and we see that this voice is Soundwave. Megatron asks the price for these weapons, and Soundwave offers them freely, provided that Megatron uses them as he sees fit. Bumper and Fastback see this exchange, but then Megatron turns his head toward the camera, looking back at Bumper. And I love this scene right here because it just gave me horror film vibes. Though Bumper and Fastback try to bail out to call for backup, they're immediately ambushed and taken out by Soundwave's team here, whose names are Laserbeak, Buzzsaw, and Ravager. Bumper witnesses Megatron stomping Fastback's head in, like, geez, Megatron is vicious. He threatens Bumper with the same fate if he doesn't tell him what he knows. However, Bumper refuses to give in. Megatron then backhands him across the room, and as he's going to finish him off, Soundwave stops him. With the help of Laserbeak, they both take the necessary information they need from Bumper's mind. Soundwave reveals to Megatron that there's a broad net cast to capture arena fighters, and that he's at the top of the security force's most wanted list on arena fighters. With this information, Megatron figures the arena has been compromised. Megatron, pleased with Soundwave, agrees to do business with Soundwave's master. Megatron then ties up the last loose end by walking up to Bumper with his eyes bursting red, asking Bumper, "What did you call me? A psychopath?" And then stomps his head in. Woo! That is crazy. And that is the end of chapter 2, my fellow Beyonders. So today's video is covering chapter 3 of the origin of the mighty Megatron. So let's get right into it. In Kaon, Soundwave arrives at Megatron's safe house. He's told Megatron is in a bad mood after losing an arm in a recent battle in the pits. You can see his men here are busily replacing it with an arm from one of the dead bots here, or maybe from his defeated opponent. He just looks beat to hell here, like he definitely went through hell in this fight. Soundwave tells Megatron that he has made progress on his request for a flight-capable operative, that he found not 1, but 3. If you're familiar with the Transformers lore, you know a couple of these people: Thundercracker, Skywarp, and the infamous Starscream. Starscream, you can see, is just in awe in the presence of Megatron. He immediately swears his undying allegiance to him. When he's asked by Megatron if they can fly, Starscream replies, "All 3 of us, beyond 3 times the speed of sound." I mean, I knew they were fast, but I didn't know they were that fast. Now, they initially think that they're here to be gladiators, but Megatron tells them that he has something much better in mind for them, saying they will kill for him. Deploying his new Moonstar arm weapon, he turns the trio over to the Hook for modification. Elsewhere in Kaon, we see the Cybertron security forces holding a funeral for Fastback and Bumper, who were killed in the last issue. Sentinel Prime delivers a eulogy, and this isn't just any eulogy, it's also a declaration of war, telling his men the outlaws have their attention, that this was a tragedy that needs an immediate response. Sometime later, we go to a parade that is being held for the unveiling of a new statue, commemorating the service of Senator Decimus, our friend here from chapter 1, so it seems like the Autobots ended up finding him. Out of nowhere, the Seekers appear and disrupt the parade. Skywarp uses his teleportation ability and pops up behind Decimus and takes out a couple of his guards. The remaining guards turn to shoot him, but he quickly teleports out. Then Thundercracker and Starscream come in for a strafing run, taking out all of Decimus' remaining guards. Decimus asks why they've done this, and Starscream replies, "If I told you that, Senator, I'd have to kill you." They abduct the Senator and fly away, and as they're flying away, we can see in the background the Decepticon symbol over the Autobots. I like this scene a lot because it was the Seekers just being dominant, taking out everyone. We then go to Senator Ratbat watching footage of the increasingly daring and destructive attacks happening all over. Industrial sectors sabotage, security forces meeting nothing but resistance, mass poisonings, resource flow disrupted, and transport centers destroyed. Ratbat realizes that his plans have gone way beyond his control. Later, at a secret location, Megatron has put out a call for new recruits to join the Gladiator games. And we see everyone here: Sunstreaker, Sideswipe, the Predacons, and then we see someone I didn't expect at all. Freaking Grimlock. I was so hyped when I saw this bot. Backstage, Rumble and Frenzy are protesting to Megatron about being placed under Soundwave's command, but Megatron tells them that they have been modified for a reason. When they ask why, he says to remember what they agreed on. Megatron then takes the stage and begins with this awesome speech, asking the crowd why are they here, stating all the different places all these bots have come from, that they all have gathered together on Kaon, bringing their misery together to fight, that they are the forgotten trying to forget. He says assembled in front of him he sees nothing but strength, power, the most dangerous Cybertronians alive. They wear badges, join teams, fight and kill, then they take off the badges and go home. But what if the badge never came off? Megatron then unveils the Decepticon insignia as the symbol for his new movement. Megatron continues, asking what if there was one badge for all of them? That instead of fighting each other, they fight the Autobots and take what's theirs. He says, we are without fear and we will make our mark upon this world. The Seekers then bring out Senator Decimus to Megatron, but before he can do anything, their meeting is interrupted by the Autobot security forces, led by Prowl and Sentinel Prime. Megatron and everyone the Autobots can catch are captured and put in inhibitor claws. We then finally see Megatron and Sentinel Prime meet face to face, and Prime makes it clear that he is not impressed with Megatron at all, thinking he would be bigger. We then go to the security forces headquarters later, and Sentinel Prime is frustrated by the huge amount of prisoners they have. One thing I find interesting here is Prime gets news that under a Senate directive, Soundwave is going to walk free. He tells Soundwave to beat it. Something happens next that I didn't expect either. Starscream is escorted out of his cell, promising that his evidence will guarantee both their future and his own. He basically offers to turn State's evidence in exchange for his own freedom. When Megatron sees this, he orders his men to kill Starscream. As Starscream is escorted away, Megatron is asked by one of his men, what did he tell Starscream? And Megatron just replies, everything. And that's where chapter 3 ends, my fellow Beyonders. So the issue takes place right where we left off, with Starscream seemingly betray Megatron. The Autobot security forces escort him away, and they take him before the Kaon Council, where the assembled bots here, I'm assuming are senators, read out this huge list of charges against him. And I like that Starscream here is being a smartass. Like, his reply to this laundry list of charges is nobody's perfect, with a nice little smirk on his face. The council says that he risked much coming to them and asks why he asked for an early hearing. And this is where we learn that this was all a part of Megatron's plans, which is not surprising. We knew Starscream wasn't betraying him. Starscream is basically here to deliver a message, and he says to the council, through your own interests, you created this. You brought us here. You made this happen. All we did was give it a badge. And after hearing this, the council orders Starscream to be taken away, but Starscream then pulls out both his arm cannons, pointing them at the senators here, saying, I don't think so. And then Starscream and Soundwave wipe out the entire council and etch the Decepticon symbol on the view screen. Like, this was so sick. Starscream then leaves to continue the plan, and we see the next step in Megatron's master plan here is Starscream blasts open the prison in order to free Megatron and the other gladiators. But Megatron says to Starscream to release not just them, but everyone in a prison cell. That today is the day they harness the power of Kaon. Soundwave then provides armaments and badges to everyone. And Starscream then introduces Megatron to Megatron's classic arm-mounted fusion cannon, which looks so badass. Megatron then tests it out and he blasts a hole in the wall, and this blast here just looks like Vegeta's Gallic gun. Like, it was sick. Megatron orders his fellow Decepticons to fall on the Autobots as predators do. Show no mercy, all of Kaon burns. That Cybertron's era is ending. We then go to a vessel filled with Cybertron's high class, and it quickly comes to an end when Skywarp and Thundercracker fire upon the vessel, causing it to crash below in the city, destroying an incredible amount on the way down. As Kaon burns, Sentinel Prime and the other Autobots are fighting to defend the city from the Decepticons, but they're losing. The Decepticons have caused massive damage, jammed communications, and they refuse to give an inch of ground. Sentinel Prime realizes with his options running out that he'll have to deploy his assortment of firepower called the Apex system. He orders his soldiers to hold the line while he falls back to retrieve it. On his way to retrieve it, he's blocked by this Decepticon, and Sentinel Prime requests entrance into the Apex facilities, but is denied access because he doesn't have council approval. So Prime decides to blast through, not only through this bot, but through the facility entrance in order to get in. Like, I love Sentinel Prime. This guy is just vicious. We then go to Soundwave, who meets with his boss. And his boss, to no surprise, is Senator Ratbat, who's killed his fellow senators here who disagreed with the reallocation of city funding and the backing up of the city state data archives to a data cube. We then kind of get a big reveal here where Ratbat admits that he was behind all the chain of events that led to Kaon burning. He aided Megatron's cause by having Soundwave supply arms. He was also the one who arranged for Megatron to be removed from the mining operation. And even though it's gone too far now that Megatron's forces have destabilized the area, he'll use the cube and context to move on. So Senator Ratbat really is the cause of all this chaos here, which is not surprising because the issues we've seen so far have given us glimpses of him manipulating things behind the scenes and utilizing his power as senator for his own benefit. As Ratbat leaves thinking he's won, out of nowhere Soundwave then shoots Ratbat, blasting right through his chest. He takes Ratbat's ill-gotten gains in order to use it for his new boss's war, and freaking takes his Spark 2 and seals it inside his cassette body frame. Like, this was awesome. This was just sick. Soundwave not only takes his ill-gotten gains, but takes his Spark 2. But anyways, as Megatron orders his Decepticons to find the front line, a huge explosion occurs. Megatron discovers that explosion was caused by Sentinel Prime, and he is inside this colossal suit of the Apex armor. And my god, I already loved how Sentinel Prime looked without this armor, but now with this armor, he is just the coolest, most badass looking bot I've ever seen. Sentinel Prime confronts Megatron, and Megatron calls Sentinel Prime out, telling him to come out of that armor, face me like a gladiator. And Prime replies with a huge blast from his Apex armor. Sentinel Prime, thinking Megatron is dead, radios to the other bots, the Autobots, that he's created an opening in the enemy lines to rally on him, but he learns that he spoke too soon. What Megatron does next is so vicious. He uses this bot named Hound, his body as a bludgeon, to shatter Prime's Apex armor helmet. Then the real battle begins. Megatron versus Sentinel Prime. Megatron punches and blasts Prime back, telling him he intends to make him suffer, that this is the end of his ways and the beginning of his. As the battle continues to rage on, Prime asks Megatron what he intends to do with his little gang. And Megatron, gaining the upper hand, says he will create desolation and call it peace. Their battle continues until Megatron is almost knocked over a cliff. Prime then lifts him up to deliver the final blow, but Megatron stabs him in the throat, and they ended up falling together and they land in a crater. Megatron tells Prime that everything he's called him and his Decepticon brethren is true. They are all those things and worse, that everything must change, and whoever stands in his way, Prime must help them. Sentinel Prime tries to reply, saying in his broken voice box here that it doesn't matter, and Megatron just says, "It'll matter when they see what I've done to you." The Autobots, finally able to get through those jammed communications and make contact with Iacon, are able to get Autobot reinforcements, who arrive in time just to find their leader's beaten, broken, and presumably dead body lying in a crater. Prowl then orders a retreat, saying that's it for Kaon, that they're pulling out. As the sun rises, Soundwave asks Megatron, since he has his army and has taken Kaon, what is next? And Megatron replies here saying, "They are spoiled by choice except one. From this day forward, they are Decepticons." And we see here Megatron, having made a throne from the remains of Prime's Apex armor, sits down and he says he has a few ideas for what's next. And this is where the Great War has begun.